Despite sales doubling and electric vehicles becoming a hot commodity in the country, affordability now seems to be the challenge. While this alternative may solve our high fuel price dilemma, not everyone may be able to afford an electric car. Let me say not yet, maybe, for now. The director of the Uyilo Emobility program, Hiten Parmar, joins me now to discuss this, along with concerns over the high import duties and limited local manufacturing that we have in the country. Hiten, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time. Firstly, I understand you're currently in the USA. You are in Portland attending a conference known as the Roadmap Conference. Can you just share with our viewers what this is about before we speak about the topic at hand?
Good afternoon to yourself and the viewers, and good morning from Portland, USA. Indeed, I just spoke yesterday on the topic of electrifying mobility globally in Portland, and it's a very topical agenda, not only in globally, but in emerging economies like South Africa. In that essence, there's a lot to learn from markets that have already adopted and implemented electric mobility, what have been the challenges and lessons learned, and opportunities for countries like South Africa to also learn from that, so that we don't make the same mistakes and face the same challenges. We have the opportunity to what they call leapfrog and advance what developing nations have struggled with.
Yeah, before we talk about what that leapfrog would look like, just tell us, currently South Africa, how do we fit in as a country into the global electric vehicle outlook?
Yeah, certainly. So, electric vehicles, and I'm talking full battery electric vehicles, were introduced in 2013. Unfortunately, the bigger challenge has been around import duties, where electric vehicles in South Africa face a higher import duties as opposed to petrol and diesel vehicles in that case. So that's been a barrier to uptake in electric vehicles in South Africa. The lobbying
because the import tariff is so high. I was told it's about 43%, and then it drives the price up. And I tried to get hold of the Department of Trade and Industry today to talk to us about what are the plans there.
Indeed. So, the basic customs and import duties at 25% for electric vehicles, where petrol and diesel vehicles from the EU at 18%, and that's where it starts. You've got an extended levy on top of that, which is the ad valorem, and then tax and other knock-on taxations in terms of that, which ends up being in the region of 40 to 60%, depending on the price tag of the vehicle itself. So indeed, yes, it does compound.
Yeah. So what would need to happen besides, you've mentioned this one as one hurdle that South Africa needs to go over, the high import duties. What else is standing in the way of a quick absorption by the market and adaptation of electric vehicles?
Indeed. So I think, everybody's got a role to play. So when we look at government's role, they have a role of creating an enabling environment. We acknowledge the green transport strategy from the Department of Transport that was introduced in 2016. However, we need more stronger policy frameworks and enabling environments from government to increase the uptake of electric mobility. We acknowledge the manufacturers that have already introduced models of vehicles in the country under those challenging scenarios. But certainly once there's a better enabling environment in the country, we'll see better uptake of electric vehicle sales in South Africa. And when we look at the infrastructure readiness, a typical map, which is called PlugShare, shows that there's over 300 public charging points in the country. And when we look at the public access of charge points to electric vehicles in the country, South Africa is on a positive footprint at the moment.
300 public chargers at the moment, and I'm sure there are plans by manufacturers of these electric vehicles in South Africa to expand that. I understand that South Africa is viewed as a market leader currently in Africa, but we can't still afford these vehicles. At the lower range, I mean, have you got an idea of who's doing well? I'm asking this because 2 days ago I interviewed a gentleman here on eNCA called Karl Snyman. He bought his electric vehicle several years ago, and he bought a Leaf from Nissan, and now he's driving a BMW i3, he was telling us, and how much it's really costing him in terms of charging it up, which is not really much.
Yeah, indeed. So unfortunately, there's a lot of interest from consumers to buy electric vehicles, but the limited offer in terms of what is available for South Africa, and when we look at the price tag on it, currently the most affordable electric vehicle is the Mini SE, which is region of 670,000 Rand, which is really far out of reach for many of our consumers in terms of that. But when we look at beyond the price itself, the operating cost is significantly cheaper. When Uyilo itself did a study some time ago, when our fuel price was at 12 Rand a litre, it worked out to the running cost was 1.40 Rand on a typical average passenger car, where running the electric vehicle was 24 cents. In terms of that. So in today's age, when we look at the rising fuel price as of tomorrow, going to go even higher in South Africa, these are the challenges that are going to, where consumers are going to feel the pinch. And this is where we need to provide more affordable, sustainable options of mobility, such as electric vehicles.
But the sales of electric vehicles in the country, have they picked up from when they started? I mean, are you seeing a trend where they're gradually moving up? Those who are affording the change are doing so more and more?
Indeed. So, yes, it has been growing year on year. It's not exponential as we see in other regions, that it's really an exploding market. But I think, in the next, year or two, South Africa will start to see radical uptake as we see new manufacturers being, introducing their models into the country. Interesting enough, when we look at the technologies of hybrid and electric, in February 2021, South Africa changed its market share between moving over where battery electric vehicles overtook hybrid vehicles in South Africa. That just shows maturity of the technology, and then consumers in South Africa not reliant on hybrid technology and fully convinced in full battery electric vehicles, which is really great to see.
Yeah, I've raised this question with everybody I've spoken to so far this week about these electric vehicles. I'm going to ask you as well, Eskom, charging of these, are they charging these 300 public chargers, for example, are they all powered by solar?
Yeah, really a very relative question, and with any conversation you go in South Africa, you can't run away from the load shedding question. The important thing to note is that most EV owners already have solar at home and a backup system in terms of that. So, they charge at home from that perspective. And also, when you're looking at the majority of the use case, 60 to 70% of charging of electric vehicles actually takes place at home while you're sleeping, and that's the benefit. Now, when you're looking at public infrastructure, I think load shedding is being around for quite some time, and major businesses, shopping malls, and other centers already have public solar installed on there, and you look at they're extending that onto public charging stations on that. So, you find that the majority of the main shopping malls and other areas where we have public charging stations, they already have solar and backup in terms of that. Your traditional city environment where you have to stop at the fuel station and refuel is non-existent in the EV market. You're looking at wherever the consumer is lying idle, such as the office or the shopping mall, is where you'll pick up a charge point. And then certainly in your major highways, your major stopovers that we have, that's where you will have opportunity to charge electric vehicles as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Hiten Parmar there, talking to us from Portland in the USA, where he's been attending an international conference, just sharing us some of the views and giving us some insights about the EV market here. The electric vehicle market is picking up, albeit slowly, in South Africa compared to other places in the world. But the future is looking very much electric in terms of mobility on our roads. Not only will it contribute with less carbon emissions, but it may become more affordable over time, as it will also cost you less at the pump. You will not need a fuel pump anymore. Still,